Hey everyone, today we see if I can make not one, but two outfits out of a 4-cent valance from the thrift store. Can I do it? Stay tuned and find out.
Dead So's! Dead So's! Dead So's! Dead So's! Dead So's! Dead So's! This is how it goes with Dead So's!
Alright guys, now can I meet my wife's challenge of making two outfits from a 4-cent valance she bought at the thrift store. Now this is going to be a down and dirty sew. It's not going to be anything fancy. I'm going to be making a simple dress for my soon-to-be 1-year-old daughter, and I'm going to be making a shirt that matches for my soon-to-be 8-year-old daughter. Alright, now I am going to cheat just a little. I can't make a whole outfit out of just this piece of fabric. Well, not in front of your very eyes, not in less than 20 minutes. So I've got lace from the fabric store, and we have these buttons to use as a decorative touch. Each one will have a different color button. Now, that brings the grand total of each piece up to, drum roll, $2.02. I don't think that's bad. Well, let's see how it looks before I say that. All right, now I have pre-cut the fabric in half, and we've measured my daughters. Now, my daughter Alexi, who's about to be 1 year old, needs this to be 18.5 inches around. Now, all we're gonna do, this is the back side, is we're gonna sew them together like this, and we're gonna make sure that we tuck our fabric in to get a nice seam, and then we're gonna fold it and iron it and give it a press, and then another seam there to make it look nice and pretty. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, now I have my first piece of fabric for my daughter Alexi here. I'm gonna put it right side up, and then I'm gonna fold it right sides together so that I can sew it into a little loop. Now, I left plenty of seam allowance. I need it at 18.5 inches across, and I cut it at 20 inches. So that leaves me with 1.5 inches that I can leave over there. And then I'm going to fold those back and reinforce the seam. So right now we're just gonna sew along this line and turn this into a loop. All right, now you're gonna wanna make sure you mind your seam allowance, and don't forget to backstitch. Anytime you're sewing something for a kid, you better remember to backstitch because they're gonna tear this thing up. Now the nice thing about this project is you don't have to hem it because it's already hemmed. Isn't that beautiful? So you already have the nice hem of the valance at the front, at the top, at the bottom, at the sides. It's all beautiful. So all you have to do is sew this thing into a nice loop, and then we're gonna make sure that we press that seam so that it's nice and pretty. All right, it's got some thick parts here because there's some ruffles on the valance, but that's okay. The machine pushes through it. We call our machine Billy Joe, the little green machine. I call him that after the lead singer of Green Day. He's little, green, and powerful. I love my little Singer Fashion Mate. If you ever want to know exactly which Fashion Mate we have, you can go to dadsos.com, click on About or on the blog section. You can see the machine that I use at Dad Sews. All right, now I'm gonna make sure I backstitch here. All through that lace. I wanted to make sure I backstitch plenty. Take my Fisker shears here. So sharp. All right, that was done super easy. Now you just want to take your fabric and fold it so that that's in the middle. We're going to spread this apart, and we're going to take our iron and press it really crisp, and then we're going to sew a stitch on each side. I'm not going to show you that because it goes exactly like what we just did. So I'm going to press this and sew it, and we'll be back for the next step. All right, now I did want to show you one tip before I finished up this piece. Now because you're sewing a loop, you're going to have to wrap some of your fabric up in your hand so that you can finish that loop. Don't worry about it, just kind of ball it up in your hand. Keep an eye on what you're sewing, okay? You've got it all wrapped up in your hand. You can see underneath or you can see over top, and everything's gonna be fine. Now, I am not sewing all the way down to the bottom of the lace of the fabric I have, but hey, if you do this kind of thing, what you're sewing with is going to be different than what I'm sewing with. So you don't really have to worry about that jazz. All right, it's a bit of a pain in the butt to get this out, and you might end up wasting some thread. But hey, well, I'd say thread's cheap, but we all know that's not true. Okay, now we've got our loop done, and we've got our nice little double seam right there. Nice and pretty, right? Okay, now we're going to figure out where we want our straps, and now we're going to sew some buttonholes on the front. Now we're not actually going to pop holes in the buttonholes. They're not going to be useful other than something to sew onto so we can hide where we've sewn our straps. And then our decorative buttons going to go right on top of that. All right, so get your buttonhole foot on. If you don't know how to use a buttonhole foot, click right here. Woo, magic box! And I've done a video that shows you in depth exactly how to use a buttonhole foot. Now the cool thing about the buttonhole foot is that it literally does everything for you. Oh man, that is going right to the top edge of my fabric. So it does everything for you, but what that means is it's on autopilot and you're not changing it. And if you rip this seam out or this buttonhole out, that's a lot of fabric to mess with, and it's just going to be a pain. So you really want to make sure you know how to use your buttonhole foot, and you want to make sure you're putting it exactly in the right spot. I think I've got mine good. I'm using quite a large button, so we'll see how it goes. Threads there. All right, now I'm going to try to show you how good this is. There we go. There's our nice buttonhole. How pretty is that? Okay, now we're going to take our straps, and you can do it two ways. You can put it over the top with your button there. Okay, that looks nice. Or you could put it underneath and put your button there, and it'll be decorative, and it'll look like there's a button through a buttonhole because your buttonhole shows a little. I'm kind of two minds, but on this one, I'm going to put the lace underneath. This also gives it a nice thick area for us to sew to, and I kind of like that. I kind of like reinforcing anything I'm sewing for kids because they tug on things, they pull on things, especially a 1-year-old baby. They're pulling at you when you're trying to change a diaper. They're ripping your face off. My daughter's almost broken my glasses 10 times. I'm like, baby, cut me a break. You smell like doo-doo. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and just quickly stitch this on, do another buttonhole on the other side, and then we're going to come back sew on our buttons, all right? All right, well, here's the finished product. I think it looks pretty awesome. Isn't it cool with the lace straps and the pink buttons and the fake buttonholes that make everything nice and thick and stitched together and nice and sturdy so my daughter's not going to tear it up? Now, I'm going to make one just like it, but a little bigger for my soon-to-be 8-year-old daughter, Melina. And if you stay tuned just a minute, you'll get to see her wearing her shirt and her little sister, Alexi, who's about to turn 1, wearing this dress. Okay, through the magic of internet video, I'm going to give you a couple extra tips. If you're not good at sewing buttons, like I'm not, your machine can do it for you. If there's 4 holes in your button, you can do a zigzag stitch, or if there's 2, machines like mine have a button sewing number. Mine is number 63. You just have to play around with the widths. Now, since mine is different than your machine, I wasn't going to walk you through exactly how. You just have to play around with that button setting and play around with the widths. Here's the tip. Use the dial on your machine to slowly go up and down and adjust the width, and that way you know you're going through the hole. After you do that a couple stitches and you know you're good, then press go on the pedal and fly through and stitch some nice thick stitches on your buttons. Now, it's tip number 2. I had my wife measure my daughter Alexi for this dress. As you're going to see in the pictures, through the magic of time travel, this dress fits very tight on my daughter Alexi. We had to slide it up from her feet. Now, it looks like a cool little cocktail dress, but she's only going to be able to wear it for about a week before she's too big for it. So if you sew the dress, you measure the dress, and you measure the person that it's going to be on. I can probably make another one of these for my daughter if I had the extra fabric, but I don't because I made another shirt for my older daughter. So be careful. measure and give yourself plenty of seam allowance, and also give yourself plenty of room for those pudgy little babies to slip through. You have to account for their shoulder width, people. If their shoulders can't fit in, trust me, you're going to get a lot of screaming and a lot of crying. Yes, I know this because I've traveled to the future. All right, thank you for watching this video with Dad Sews, and thank you for checking out dadsews.com, youtube.com/dadsews. Keep in touch with us. Go to dadsews.com and sign up for our newsletter. We have an awesome new measuring tool that gives you the perfect seam allowance that we're going to be reviewing in the next couple weeks, and I have one to give away to one of you viewers. Thank you for stopping by, and I will see you next time. Hey, don't forget to click subscribe below. That way you know every time there's a new video at Dad Sews. Or click here or here for a cool tutorial or epic fail. And don't forget our motto, sew, fail, repeat.
This production is brought to you by the Plaid Dad Blog Podcast Network. For more information, visit us online at plaiddadblog.com.